And okay, so the last one I want to do before I get on to some of your questions is the men's doubles final. And I actually want to talk about both pairs. Now, obviously, I am English, as you know, and an English pair, Ben Lane and Sean Vendy, won. So obviously, you're probably expecting me to talk mainly about them, and I will. I will talk a lot about Ben Lane and Sean Vendy. But I do want to put it out there that whilst I was really happy for them, and it's a great result for English badminton, I'm not going to be someone that's like massively patriotic and be like, yeah, and in England, come on. Yeah, obviously, I want them to do well. Like, I always want to see English players do well, but I'm not going to be someone here that's like, I don't know how to put it. But anyway, let's put it this way. Talking about this section, I'm not going to overlook the pair they beat, because I think there's actually, so they did lose, obviously, but there's some really positive things that I want to say about them as well. So about this final, I want to follow on because I mentioned this in the women's doubles final section, and that is that obviously with the slower conditions, if you attack too basically or you were just too direct in your approach, it wasn't overly successful. You needed to be able to flirt that line between not giving away mistakes and being patient. You can't go too crazy. But you need to do it with playing more out there, more cross-court smashes, more slice drops, more stop drops, lots more variation. You needed to be able to, your opponents couldn't settle into the defense, because if they were settled with the slower shuttles or the slower conditions, it did look like something like the shuttle was like a parachute out there. You just weren't going to get anywhere unless you'd have like Ranky ready level of power. But even then, pairs of this level would get used to that and would be able to just defend. And I actually think that's something that both these pairs did really, really well throughout. And again, what I said about Pearly Tan and Tina Marilithram, they have a really good understanding of each other because they've been a pair for a long time. And you can tell they are very close off court. And I'm not surprised the men's doubles final was between two pairs that also share that, because Ben Lane and Sean Vendy, they've grown up together. They were members of the same club growing up. They obviously played together for a long time. Oh no, they weren't members of the same club, but obviously they were played within Milton Keynes a lot. I can't actually remember. They might have been different junior clubs, but anyway, they've known each other for a long time. They've grown up through the junior days. They've been partners for a long, long time. And I think they even admitted that they've got one of the closest relationships on the world tour. It's quite a bold claim to make, because there's quite a few pairs I would say that are in that boat. One of them being the pair that they played against, but they definitely have a very close bond. And I think that instinctively know what each other's going to do before they've done it. So when you're playing with a style where you are playing a little bit more unpredictable and lots of variation, obviously that's going to be a major factor and something that's going to be quite important. Obviously, Aaron Chia and Soviet played together for a long, long time. They know each other really well. They do seem pretty close off the court as well. And so they also have that understanding. And in all honesty, it was incredibly close. What it boiled down to for me was I talk about that fine line between being creative and doing things with the shuttle all the time, but also being patient and not making mistakes. Just at the end, the Malaysians tipped over too much to the mistakes. There was a few shots. They start maybe going for a bit too much or whatever, but they made mistakes doing the things that is easy in hindsight to go, you shouldn't have done that. You should have played the basic shot. But playing the more creative shots was what was working and what was needed. So it's hard to criticize, but they made too many mistakes in those situations right at the end, and that's where Ben Lane and Sean Vendy were able to get that little run. I can't remember what the score was exactly, but you're looking, it was even up to 14-15, and then the English pair were able to pull away, and obviously they built up enough a lead that they were able to close it out. So for me, I don't need to go through the whole match. I think that summarizes it pretty well. There's obviously lots of little things going on here and there and lots of things, but to generalize it, the doubles events was all about being creative, whether it's like the cross smashes or just you needed to play your first attack as a slice or a softer one to get a slightly shorter lift, doing something to kind of, you couldn't allow a pair to settle into defense. And I thought Ben Lane and Sean Benny did that really well, because Aaron Chia and Sohiek, being Malaysian, have a very, very good defense. So if you didn't play that way, they weren't going to get through. That was one of the things I was quite interested about this final. But yeah, no, it came down to just a few key errors at the end for the Malaysians. So sticking with Ben and Sean for a little bit. Obviously, this is like I said, a huge win for English badminton because this is the first time an English player or pair has won a tournament this level since the 2020 Denmark Open, the Super 750, when Chris Langridge and Marcus Ellis won the title. But, and this is not to take anything away from Chris and Marcus because that was a great win, but if you remember, that 2020 Denmark Open wasn't very well attended because it was like the only tournament in the second half of 2020. So obviously there was a lot of top pairs missing, whereas obviously at this Arctic Open, not all the top pairs are there, but there was a number of top ones in attendance. So if you go back, if you say discount that 2020 Denmark Open, you have to go back another 5 years to the Super Series finals when the Adcocks won the mixed doubles title there. So it's been 10 years. That's quite incredible since we've seen an English player or pair win a tournament of this level. We've seen like pairs like Marcus Ellis and Lauren Smith win. I think they won in Thailand, but that was a Super 300. So this is Super 500, which would have been a Super Series level prior to 2018. So that's quite an incredible stat. So like I said, it's a massive win. And obviously personally for Ben and Sean, this was their first win of this level, obviously, because we haven't had any since they've been a pair. But also it marks a really nice comeback because only 4 months ago, Ben Lane had surgery on his right ankle to remove excess bone. And I know that they kind of came back rather hastily for the World Championships and they weren't quite ready. And they've then since then had some good results, some good performances. And obviously this is a continuation of that. So really good to see not just an English player or pair, English pair back on top at this level, but it's really good for Ben and Sean. And again, with their first win, can they build on this? Can they move forward? They did say that they're going to, obviously these results don't come around often, so they are going to celebrate. I'm not quite sure what that means for them, whether it's a few cheeky beers or a full-on night out. I don't know. Obviously, they've got the Denmark Open and French Open to focus on. But if they were to do terribly in Denmark because they really wanted to celebrate this win, then I wouldn't hold that against them. I don't think anyone should because, I think I've seen a lot of top players look back and they kind of don't really celebrate the big wins in their career, and this is certainly one for Ben and Sean. So, moving on, talking about Aaron Chia and Soyik. Obviously, they're going to be disappointed that they weren't able to convert this final into a win. They were obviously probably were the favourites. I know they have had some struggles with Ben and Sean. Even recently, they've lost to them. They still held a positive head-to-head, 6-4, but and so as a result, being world number twos, they would be kind of the favourites. Actually, I keep saying world number twos and then going, actually, are they? Yes, they are. I was right. They're world number twos by quite some margin, actually. But okay, so back to them. What I want to say about them, obviously, other than like I said, the end of the third game, their errors were massively costly. But there's two things that I want to say about them. One is with the way that the conditions played, like I said a few times throughout this video, they were quite slow. So with them, with obviously their original style and being more, this is a style that a lot of Malaysian pairs have used in the past, is quite defensive. Aaron Chansey have a very solid defense. And I thought that maybe they might revert back to that being in this slow haul, but actually that wasn't the case. And I think that's a testament to obviously Harry IP and his more Indonesian approach and what he's done to a lot of the Malaysian pairs. They've made them more attacking. You hear a lot of the no lift style. And it's something that obviously they do lift, but in general, they're not looking to lift, they're looking to attack more. And it was really good to see Aaron Chansey still doing that, even though the conditions were not necessarily favourable for that style. So that's one thing. I really was very impressed with that. The other one is Soyik has massively improved his front court. And I think that's been a massive key. I'm pretty sure I said this before, in their recent success and their ability to become world number twos. So the reason I say that is obviously I think if you have both players in a pair that can play equally well from both formations, it means there's no obvious gap or obvious formation that you can get a pair into and create a weakness. And I think that's something in this day and age we're seeing it with Kim Won-ho and Seo Jay. They're equally strong in both ways. And I think that's the way men's doubles is going. It's moving away from you need a clear rear and a clear front. I think both players in a pair you need to be able to play both ways to be successful. And Aaron Chia and Sohyik, with Sohyik's improvement at the front court, is definitely helping that. And the reason I think it's good is I think Aaron Chia's rear court, especially in a hall like this, where, like I said, creativity is massively important. He's far more effective and stronger from the back. Sohyik's a real workhorse player. He is skillful. I don't want this to come across like I'm saying he's not skillful, but obviously if you compare him to Aaron Chia with like ability to play all sorts of shots, I'm sure even Sohyik would admit that Aaron Chia is above him in that. But I like the fact that, so in a result, like in a hall like this, Aaron Chia being able to use his drops, his slices, and all that stuff, obviously allows them to be more effective in the attack. And obviously, Sohyik's improved his front court to set him up, but also to kind of intercept and to win points from there. And actually, I speak about Sohyik not being as skillful. I actually think that he's developed a lot more in that area as well, a lot more creativity. He was always someone that was really hardworking, really basic, and just did things he did his job well. And now he still does that, actually even better. That's the last thing I actually want to talk about. But I actually started to see he's gaining more confidence when he's moving to the front. He can challenge, do stuff like he's not just coming like this. He was something to do that, and then he would change direction. He has that ability now. He's adding that layer into his game, and that is absolutely fantastic. And I think for obviously for them as a pair, for more future success, I think obviously they can continue to develop that. And the last thing about them, and this is something that I've noticed more so with Aaron Chia, because Sohyik's never really been that. He's always been quite strong on this. Is that physically they've both really stepped up. They look so much more physically well prepared. Aaron Chia, he's a stockier player. I think when he retires, we might see him balloon a little bit, but he's definitely got himself physically into great shape for himself. And Sohyik has done the same. I mean, obviously Sohyik's always been a little bit. He's been taller, slimmer. They're different builds, but you can see both of them physically have got stronger, faster, fitter, sharper. They really are. I could sing their praises for a long time. I think they've done a lot of things. They've really progressed their game. Obviously, they've got physically better. Sohyik's front court and creativity has improved. Obviously, they're applying Harry's more attacking-minded tactics really well. They're taking to that. They've managed to put that into their game pretty quickly. And so I think we're going to see more of them. And that's why sometimes when I see comments like what's happening to Malaysia men's doubles, because obviously we had Aaron Chia and Sohyik do really well in like Singapore, Malaysia, those kind of tournaments. And then they had a little bit of a blip for the Worlds. They didn't have the best World Championships. And now even people now are saying because they lost to Lane and Vendy, they're questioning him, and it's like, come on, they're still doing really well, and you've got to see the bigger picture that their game is. Whenever I see them, I think they're always improving as a pair. So, no, that's the last thing I'll say about them, and actually that moves on nicely to the Q&A.